how can the richest continent in mineral resources have the poorest countries in the world? Make it make sense. Well, Africa holds 30% of the world's mineral reserves, with countries like the DRC having an estimated $24 trillion worth of untapped resources. So there is clearly a problem. So how did we get here? It all starts with the colonial design, which has now been reinforced by modern-day governance systems. Europeans didn't build diversified economies. In fact, they built extraction machines. Railways connected mines to ports. Borders were drawn for control, not cohesion. And by the time independence happened in Africa in the 1950s and the 1960s, most countries were economically structured to be dependent on the exportation of one or two commodities. Then came the Cold War, where global powers backed regimes based on strategic loyalty and not necessarily on institutional strength. And then the 1980s debt crisis hit. And then many African countries adopted the IMF's and World Bank's structural adjustment programs. So privatization, subsidy cuts, trade liberalization. So the goal was macroeconomic stability. But in reality, it reduced state control over key industrial entities and deeper exposure to volatile global markets. Meanwhile, the global trade system awards value addition, which mostly happens outside of Africa. So African countries export raw materials, while multinational firms extract profits that normally flow outwards. And when commodity prices crash, national budgets collapse. That's the resource scarce in action. And global powers are still competing aggressively, from China's Belt and Road initiatives financing infrastructure tied to access to resources, to the EU signing strategic mineral partnerships, the US pushing supply chain agreements for critical minerals, to Gulf states investing in ports and farmlands. Everyone wants raw materials, but few want Africa controlling the process. And African countries are catching on. The AU decided to launch the African Continental Free Trade Area to boost intra-African trade and industrialization, creating a market of 1.3 billion people. Botswana moved into diamond cutting instead of just exporting the stones, while Nigeria is expanding refining capacity to reduce imports. It's not a smooth transition, but a promising one. Debt is rising, government challenges remain, and the external pressure is real. But for the first time in decades, the strategy is changing. The question isn't whether Africa has wealth. The question is whether we can finally get to keep it.